The signal is, when it comes to performance, understand what parts of your performance are under your control and where that feedback loop will matter for you to go back and fine tune the process even more. The outcome will take care of itself. And so if you happen to have $2 million in your pocket and that's your outcome, now you've got the cart is now before the horse, we're in trouble. If the outcome, though, is to have a love affair with the process of figuring out how far I can take this thing, how good I can get, how great of a teammate I can be, then the $2 million, just kind of move it to the side a little bit.
Welcome back, or welcome to Why Option. I'm your host, Yogi Roth. I stole that line from our guest today. Excited about our guest today because clearly we're not at home in our Venice Beach traditional podcast studio. I'm here. I'm at Finding Mastery. I'm with Dr. Michael Gervais, and every one of our conversations is brought to you by our founding partner. We love you. 76, keeping you on the go, 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 so you never miss a beat. You go a ton. You're moving. I'm glad we got you to just stay still for a little bit with me one-on-one. You're like a Buddha. You're always very present. Got a lot to go with you today, a lot to talk about today. I do want to reference though, like where we are. Congratulations, Mike.
Oh, I mean, this
is pretty nice. I mean, we had a talk about this maybe 10 years ago, and it was like milk crates and maybe some microphones. And look what you got now. Congratulations.
It's so fun. I think your community might appreciate that. When we're thinking about doing a podcast, you and I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
And so congratulations on what you're building and what you've built. And so it's awesome that you're here.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, for everybody watching, findingmastery.com, podcast Finding Mastery, it's a must listen to. You've done so many cool things.
Thank you.
There's that podcast, conversations around youth sport, professional sports, entrepreneurship, leadership, man. I love your coursework. It's amazing. Got 2 courses, findingmastery.com. Check them out. We'll get into that towards the end as well. But I do want to start with just a general thought of sport. We're both parents. We've got youth, or I got a youth son. You got a high school son that plays sport. What do you think about the world of sport to set a framework right now? Like it's transactional, guys can transfer, high school athletes, college athletes are making money. Of course, the NFL is the NFL. You've experience, tremendous experience at all of them. I think you're the best high performance psychologist in the world. I've worked with NFL players, Olympic athletes. His resume is amazing, folks. So
thank you.
Now that you're at ground zero with your son in high school, and we see this transfer portal going crazy in college football, which is the crux of our audience, like what's your lens on what's happening in the transient nature of sport?
Let's zoom way up for just a minute. Is that my first principle around sport is that it's a great way to learn about who you are. And so is the arts, so is a lot of things. But for you and me and your community, I think that there's a great service to think about that, whether we're in youth sport all the way up to pro sport, is that it's still, and it becomes more of a business as you go, but it's still a great way to learn about how do you work with mistakes? How do you let go, when it's really tricky? How do you have a command of your mind and a command of your body when pressure is on? How do you become a great teammate to other people? How do you work inside of a structure and still maintain a sense of creative license? All of that is it's available in high school and younger, and it's available all the way up into the pros. The challenge is oftentimes the structure gets in the way of the purity of what it can teach us. Yeah. The structure is radically changing. And my son is a high school athlete, and let me actually strike that. Keep that in the recording. I don't mean strike it as pull it out of the recording. I don't know why I even said that. I would never define my son as an athlete. Yeah. He's so much more than that, but he loves athletics. He loves the sport industry for what it represents as bit of entertainment and as a working laboratory for him. So let me just say that the first principle, it's a great way to learn more about who you are and how you can develop in this world. Secondly, the shifting of the sand underneath foot is happening right now. And I don't think anyone really knows how to navigate it well. However, I would suggest that maybe more than ever is that if you struggle working from first principles, if you struggle with knowing what matters most to you, the external dynamic sand shifting environment in sport will chew you up. So there is no better time to be grounded in first principles, to have a command of how you work with your own psychology and your emotions, so that the external world does not dictate the internal experience. The most powerful performers, the most powerful humans on the planet, they work from the inside out. They know what matters. They know how to be fully present. They know how to settle in and be able to bring their best self forward, even when there's high stress or pressure in the external world. Those are the ones that are navigating well.
What percentage do you think because you got a ton of experience in the NFL, right? You spent almost a decade with the Seahawks. You work with athletes. You're around it all the time. How many are doing that? Because in college, like having a first principle from the inside out. Because I'm just thinking like, all right, we know all the Elite 11 quarterbacks. Like call them the creme de la creme, the mature ones, the strong ones, the great guidance along the way. They've navigated. And I'm like, how many of them would even be able to answer like what the first principle is from the inside out as they navigate being told how great they are, how bad they are, where they should play, how they're getting screwed, like you name it. I'm curious, like what do you think that number is?
Small number.
Okay,
Yeah,
so why
small number.
Why do you think that is?
Well, okay, so when you think about what you can train as a human, there's three. You can train your craft, you can train your body, and you can train your mind. I might put an asterisk next to spirit, but I have studied all the 11 world religions. I'm deeply interested in the traditions, but I don't have the science lens to stand on there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say craft, body, and mind you can train. The world of sport tends to be pretty concrete. And so most coaches and athletes have indexed first, rightly so, on craft and body. So they train their craft, they train their body. And I was just with Coach Carroll, the head coach of the Raiders, 2 nights ago. And I asked him in front of a large audience, I said, or a student body at USC, I said, what percentage at the elite level is the mental part of the game? And he kind of, sat back in his chair a little bit and, gathered himself and quickly said, like, it's everything. So he's pointing, one of the great coaches of our time is pointing to the mental part of the game being really important. Yeah. Let's say it's, I don't know, he made a gesture like it was 75% or more at the elite level. Your question is noted because if it is 75% or more, because everyone's got the physical, everyone's got the technical skills, like to make an NFL roster, you're an incredible athlete. Like you have invested. Even if you never see the field in game day, you are an incredible athlete to make an NFL roster. The highest respect. Now, one of the separators, though, is can you do it in practice and on game day? Practice has incredible stress in there because you're surrounded by other men in the NFL, other competitive alpha athletes that want to take your spot on the roster. You've got coaches that are deciding if you make it or don't. You've got competitors that are trying to take your spot. And you know that you must get to that messy edge to unlock growth. Now, in that messy edge is where you could fall apart and when you can have that moment of brilliance to unlock something like, oh, I get it now. So that risk-taking vulnerability ecosystem while trying to catch a ball at full speed or tackle somebody at full speed, it's hard to do. What's the separator? The mental part of the game. What percentage of young athletes are investing in the mental part of the game? Very few. Why is that? Because it is invisible, it's hard to understand, and you and I, and certainly the older coaches than us, have inherited a negative narrative around psychology. It's for the weak.
Still. We have, you've been on my podcast every year for 9 years now.
Yeah.
The first episode was about that, of like the stigma of you're weak. And you still feel that today?
There's still some. It is radically different now than it was. When I first was in the NFL, let's go back like 13 years, the incoming, not freshmen, what are they called? Rookies. The incoming rookies had an appreciation like, oh, I've heard about that. Like this stuff is good. We had a keynote come into our college at wherever that would say something. And it's here every day for me. So there was enough of an interest and a pull. Now the rookies coming in are like, oh yeah, we had somebody in full time at our school. So it's changing, which is really, really good. And that all change, global change happens when somebody with the right lever, meaning they've got money, they got power, they got some sort of status, they start pointing to how important something is, and the rest of us go, oh. And so that first lever has already changed, which is great.
You said messy before. I think of college football. College football is messy, is a mess.
It is a
and
mess
I love
right
this
now.
sport.
Yeah.
Love this sport. Saturdays, nobody could touch 120 by 53 and a third. It's still my favorite thing of all time. Going to Eugene this weekend and call a spring game. The games are great. Everything around it is like this dark cloud. I feel like for most athletes, it's pretty messy too. So here's the money, and here's people representing you that maybe are a little bit of a mess. Here's a community telling you what they believe your truth to be, but in the facility, it's totally different. How do you navigate? As I referenced earlier, my favorite Chip Kelly quote is praise and blame are all the same. Now the OC with our Raiders there. How would you guide someone to clean it up? Like, is it about just getting tidy and having that one thought every day to navigate? Because there is, like, the shoes of a 20-year-old. Like, here's $2 million, go play quarterback. What? Versus just go play. And I can you speak to that player?
Well, let me speak to the messiness first. I think it's a great word for the entire playing field in college football right now. I totally agree with you. And it's also like a really exciting time. There's a new thing that's taking place. We don't know what it's going to exactly look like. Some people will get swallowed up by it. Some people will be consumed by it because they're not working from first principles. And I'll make that really concrete in a minute. And some people will not be able to navigate, and others will do just great. And that is not, I'm not suggesting that the ones that are going to do great are the ones that are getting paid. It's the ones that are understanding the signal to noise ratio. So we're in an innovative phase. And in that innovative phase, it's messy. Signal to noise ratio, it's an engineering framing. It's also a psychological framing. If you can stay deeply committed to the signal and work to gate out the noise, you will find growth. You will be part of the innovation as opposed to getting sucked into the noise around you. If you're a parent listening to this, it's incumbent upon you to help your young person know the difference between signal and noise. If you're a coach, same thing. If you're an athlete, same thing. And each one of you, agents, same thing. If you're a benevolent agent, you're really trying to do the right thing to help somebody monetize the opportunity and commit to developing their craft, to getting to know themselves better. You probably have the first principles in order. A first principle is signal to noise ratio. Get to the signal. A first principle could be control what's in your control. Better, work on mastering what's in your control. And if you can do that, you're probably going to stay connected to the signal. So it's an opportunity in the messiness is to get down into first principles and get down into signal to noise ratio and be great there.
Ready, set. Use French fries to go. Yeah, oil from French fries. Turn yesterday's leftovers into today's fuel. More power, lower emissions. 76 renewable diesel fuels all the ways you go, go, go.
Signal to noise. Dopamine hit. I know every coach and or parent, they recognize that, right? So here I am, I'm building up my brand. I'm leveraging my school's logo. I go to UCLA, I go to USC, I go to Oregon, I go to Ohio State, like leverage the logo, 100%. I'd give that as a strategy, marketing strategy. Signal and noise though, like there's a lot that comes with that. What's a guidepost around what can make you money, but it can also impact your headspace dramatically when it comes to social media and building your brand?
Yeah, I think I actually think the question sounds like, wow, where would we take this? It's not that different than what makes an athlete great. There's a process to get to performance. And if you can have an elite or masterful process, you likely are going to have high performance. And if you put those two under some tension over time, you just might get the outcomes that you're looking for. So think about the investment in process to get to performance, and then the outcome will take care of itself, getting paid, let's say. And as soon as you start messing with that formula, and there's nothing new I just said there. That's been around forever. The signal is master your process. The signal is, when it comes to performance, understand what parts of your performance are under your control and where that feedback loop will matter for you to go back and fine tune the process even more. The outcome will take care of itself. And so if you happen to have $2 million in your pocket and that's your outcome, now you've got the cart is now before the horse, we're in trouble. If the outcome, though, is to have a love affair with the process of figuring out how far I can take this thing, how good I can get, how great of a teammate I can be, then the $2 million, just kind of move it to the side a little bit. Just move it to the side.
That's the quote that every coach needs to say in their team room when they listen to this. Like, do you have a love affair with the craft, and are you willing to go for it?
Yeah.
Because right now in college, everybody's on a 1-year deal. So your time in the NFL, and I've asked guys that had 1-year contracts, their end of their career, they were like, it was awesome because I was at my best and I knew that the business of the NFL could have said, you're not good enough anymore. But in college, the 1-year deal, very rarely, especially if you're a premium player, are they like, we're going to get rid of you. Like, you're 21 years old, like you're on the come up. How would you guide somebody to create a positive, productive headspace on a 1-year contract? Because that's what college football is now. Compared to what I think the mature NFL guy who's on a 1-year deal is like, sense of urgency, fighting for his life. The college guys are more like, let me leverage it. Let me find the best deal, especially the community around them, so they could find the best place to then go land.
And in that question, who did you have in mind? Did you have, think about a third.
I'm thinking a starter in college football.
Yeah, because so you're thinking the top third, middle third, and
yeah, give me the top third of college football players who they're all getting paid. They can leverage one school over another. They could probably make another $200,000, $300,000. Like, we're in this world right now. The transfer portal window has a handful of days left to it to enter in. And then you're just going to leverage offers on 1-year deals versus, I made a commitment here. Like, that idea is so far gone from reality. But I still feel like in our own minds, that athlete who's in the top third can make a commitment to himself that I'm going to just focus on my craft and be better. The money will come. It's not like I'm not getting paid already, but I feel like the community around them, it has really made it even messier. Hey, we could leverage this. We got a chance here. And what I see often is a lack of discipline from those premium players. And I'm not in their meetings. I'm not in your families, but that's what I feel from the outside looking in.
And I'll add 2 more levels of complexity. One is, if I was going through this right now with my son, I would want to maximize all of the opportunities.
You said that last time you came on.
Did I? Yeah. I'd want to maximize every one of them, and so.
But what does opportunity mean?
If somebody's going to, let's go top third, and the middle third is different. Okay, so top third, hey, we want you to come to the school. We've got a pot of money for you, and you're going to be the face of the brand of the university. Okay, great. I would want to make sure that I've got the right team in place to maximize all of those. And I would create a bit of a bubble around my son. And I'd be very clear, look, we're going to take care of this for you. Okay? So we're going to scrub. You'll be in part of any meetings that you want to be part of. This is your life, your decisions. Son, you're still young at this. And he says, what? I'm 20. I say, yep. Pause here for just a moment, okay? Because his job, one, he's very young still. So college athletes don't want to be reminded that they're young, but they're very young at life, okay? So the team around the team is really important. So pull out of this just for a moment, and I'll tell you a story. And I'll come right back to the concreteness of your question. It was maybe like 3 weeks ago. I think as a dad, you're going to love this. My son and I were having a heart-to-heart, and we're having a heart conversation, and I said to him, look, when you were really young, I was way out in front of you. And I had a spotlight and a shine, and I had a flashlight, and I was showing you. And I'd run back and kind of grab your hand, and then I'd go to the frontier, and I'd figure some stuff out, and I'd come back, and like, son, I'm way ahead of you. And then as you got older, the gap started to get a little closer. Now he's 16, almost 17. I said, I'm still in front of you. I'm holding the flashlight. We pass it back and forth wonderfully. You are figuring out how to hold your own flashlight too. but I'm still a couple paces ahead of you. I said, it won't be very long until we're shoulder to shoulder. And I could see him kind of like feel like being seen, like, yeah. I said, but it's not that time yet. Push, do all the things that you need to do, take the risks, like challenge me. I'm still ahead of you, son. And he settled in, he felt seen, he felt safe. And then I said to him, there will be a time after we're shoulder to shoulder, walking this world together, that you're going to take steps ahead of me. I'm going to need you there too. So just know where you are in this place. And he's a kid. And if you're 19, you're still a kid. Parents, you got to show up. And if you're caught up in the outcome and the money, it'll be really hard. And I say that with all of the compassion, is that for some families, they don't know if they're going to get another shot of money. Injury is a real thing. Yeah. They might not have a framework for how money works in their family. This is just it's more of an ego play than it is a money play. I have all the compassion for how messy and complicated this is, and I would try to maximize all of it. And I would remember this extraordinarily talent of a football player is still a kid. Yeah. And I would respectfully and honorably treat him that way.
I had a parent who's amazing call me up a couple weeks ago. And this individual asked a question I'd never been asked before. And the question was, what are we as parents doing wrong when it comes to their players who are on, this is college football. College football right now is on the cusp of something that's never been done before, Mike. They're going to have roster limitations. So players are going to be getting cut in college. I had an interview on this show with my quarterback Malik Murphy, you remember from Elite 11.
Yeah, of course.
And Malik was a starter at Duke last year. They won, I think, 10 games. And the coaching staff says, we're moving in another direction. It's not like they were horrible, right? He played really well. I don't know the nuances of it, maybe missed a couple reads or whatever, but they made a decision and said, hey, we're going to move on from you and bring in another quarterback for a bunch of money. So the parents, I think, that are like trying to do it the right way, or quote unquote the right way, right? They're trying to do all the things you just referenced, right? Have the flashlight, lead them, guide them. They're also saying like, God, what are we missing? Like, because there's a world where like people are just saying, Grayson, appreciate you. You're not good enough anymore. Like, what would you say to them? Because now they're trying to be like, what? Should we be colder? Should we lean into the relationships as much as we did? Like, should it be truly a business decision in this beautiful time on a team sport, like how you started this conversation?
Oh yeah, it's business. But and there's an invisible handshake in the pros. It's now an invisible, more visible handshake in the in college, which is, we love you as long as you perform.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's in business too. If I go work with, you know, a senior leadership team at a Fortune 50 company, I'm not asked back if I don't help their team perform better. So we're helping them with their process. We're helping them with their performance by helping the individuals inside the organization train their mind the same way we would train elite athletes. It's an awesome time for us. That being said, for the parents, what are we doing wrong? Maybe, this is me ringing the bell one more time, to pay attention to the first principles. Mm-hmm. Keep investing in the controllables, which is, does your son, in this case, because it's football, do they really understand their footwork? Do they really understand the playbook? Do they really understand how to focus deeply? Do they have the mechanics of confidence in place? Do they know how to frame a loss to keep getting better? These are all psychological principles that all the world's best have invested in and can understand how to do exceptionally well. Come on, now is the time. And so from the, sorry, that just ping and ding just got me. From the time of where is this world going, it's more important, how am I investing in the controllables? Yeah. And that's where I'd spend all of my time.
I love that. Okay, leadership. You referenced it. You speak all across the world. You're on your way to Australia. You were just in India. You were just up at Microsoft. Like, you do a lot of that training. Athletic directors are in a unique position now. They're making hires of head coaches, and there's a lot to manage. Like, head coaches are true, like, they're Fortune 500 CEOs. They are navigating millions and millions of dollars. I think there's a world where it's like, give me the hot riser, younger, here we go. We've seen it in the NFL work a bunch. Sean McVay, right? We've seen it also where Pete Carroll, you reference him, like his first shot, right? With the Patriots, it didn't end the way he wanted. And away you go, you catch it on the second, third, fourth run. What would you advise somebody on how to navigate the hiring of such an important position in college football right now?
Cool question, especially with all the noise. I'm going to say it. I'm going to ring the bell a third time. Be very clear about first principles. And some folks.
So what is that for like an athletic department? Because it's like make money, fill the stands. Like
those are not
what's
first
an
principles.
eight? Okay,
those are
what's
not.
an
Those
eight?
are outcomes.
Okay,
those
so
are both outcomes.
In the most transactional time in the history of college football, what's an example of an athletic director's first principles? I get it as an athlete, but if I'm hiring somebody,
I haven't thought about it from that perspective much, but let me be really crisp on what a first principle is. It's something that is so foundational and so important to you, that is so clear and you're so clear of what that is, that you line up your thoughts, your words, and your actions to support that first principle. So for you, honor of your wife, let's say, would hopefully be a first principle. I know you well enough to know that it is. And if someone came in here kind of hip checking, saying something about, blah, 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 I did this deal and you'd be like, oh, okay, hold on a minute. And you would rise up to protect that first principle, which is the honor of your wife. It's the same thing for any position right now, especially in this geopolitical wild world that we're in. Come back to first principles. So for an athletic director, it is not, and filling the stands is not a first order principle. That's way down. You need somebody that, I don't know what it's going to be, that really understands how to work with 19-year-olds, who understands the ecosystem of the complicated, if I'm thinking about hiring a coach, right? The complicated nature of distractions versus principles or signal, and is going to be great with relationships. So I would go, I'm going to ring it, this third time, go back to first principles, be true to that, and then let your thoughts, words, and actions line up to support those first principles. Because yes, you, athletic director, have pressure to fill the stands. You have pressure to make money. You have pressure to whatever. NFL coaches, GMs, athletes have the same pressure. I have the same pressure. So if I get sucked up into that, I move myself and I deleverage myself away from the things that I can master and control.
Two thoughts on that. I think it's fascinating to think of the phrase first principles. I had to navigate that this offseason. Almost jumped back into college, almost went in the NFL, and had to really almost like back my way into it. Like, whoa, why am I even thinking? My first principles are raising these two boys and being a killer husband. And I love calling games and having the summers to do whatever I want. Like, I don't want to be on the phone with agents. I don't want to be navigating this. I had to almost like be given an offer, an opportunity to go, to be like, whoa, what is that really again?
Yep.
And I'd like to think that, I've thought through that to a large degree. I think of like Andrew Luck. He's the general manager at Stanford football. They just fired their head coach. They brought in an interim. Like, the question is like, the older we go, the more wise we get. But do you see in your experience, like, the busier we get, so the less we pay attention to first principles or even consider like, what are they?
I think it's more the latter.
Yeah.
What are they? And then once you know what they are, then you can hold a standard toward them.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what they are, what becomes the standard are the expectations from others, and whatever those downhill demands are on you, which are hard to navigate if you're not clear about first principles.
Okay, so my favorite coach who I think elicits this is Dan Lanning. You need to have him on your show, Finding Mastery. Check it out, findingmastery.com. He has, since day one, been like, our DNA traits are connection, growth, toughness, and sacrifice. And connection is the best one. And in the transient nature that we've been talking about here, he pours into that. So for you, you got this illustrious catalog of experiences. Who's had, like, I don't want to say the best first principles, but the clearest, the ones that landed the most when you've navigated? Felix Baumgartner, jump from the stratosphere. Pete Carroll, go win a Super Bowl, go to another one. You've seen a ton.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Does something jump to mind? Because if I'm listening to this, I'm like, give me an example. Give me an example of a leader that is thriving in the first principles world.
I'll give you one. Toto Wolff is the managing director for the Mercedes Formula One team. And Formula One is the world of high performance and precision. And like this sounds subtle, but it's cool. Like in their garages, nothing's labeled, but they know where everything is. And it's so that there's no advantages tipped because there's a ton of media shooting around there. Like they're a step beyond high performance in that they are really protecting their trade secrets in the highest way. That's not why I wanted to tell the story. The story is because one of his first principles is discernment. So what does discernment mean? To think deeply, to understand the variables, to think deeply, to make a decision and take decisive action. That's discernment. And in this world where things are shifting all over the place, whether it's in the market, the financial market, or it's like the principles that are being challenged of our country, the geopolitical nature across the planet, discernment is a necessary skill. And discernment, again, means understanding the variables, thinking deeply about them, having clarity to make a decision, hopefully that's lined up to first principles. So Toto Wolff, I asked him almost the same question you just asked me, which is like, how? How do you do it? He says, it's a good question. I think that if one of my friends were here, they would point out that I do something that is kind of strange. They travel a lot. 13-hour flights is kind of normal for them in Formula One. That on a 13-hour flight, it would not be uncommon for him to just be staring into space, staring towards the front of the plane, thinking. No music, no TV, not reading, just thinking. And I said, for how long? He says, yeah, most of the flight. He goes, it's amazing. I get to really think about everything. So he's able to conjure up, using his imagination, a theater. And in that theater, he sees ideas playing out. Some people need to write, totally cool. But the process is this is process agnostic. Whatever you need to do to think deeply would be one of the skills that is required. Now, to think deeply, you need to manage your focus. You also need to be calm enough to be able to feel your way and to see your way through your ideas so that you can get down into clarity of decision making. Then you can make decisive action from there. Yeah. So most people's intuition is pretty good. Our brains are well-tuned to survival, but not optimized for thriving. So it is important that we honor this intuition bit and also take it a step further to be able to think clearly about ideas, to discern, to take action.
Yeah, what I'm pulling out of that is, can you have the discipline to create the space, daily, weekly, whatever, to let your mind roam? I feel a difference when I go for a walk and I don't have a phone in my pocket. I think the higher we get, I have this.
How are you going to track your steps, though?
Right. So I have this theory. It came to me. I was doing a conference a couple weeks ago with our friend Ashley Adamson. We did the Barron's financial and annual thing out here. It was great in LA. And this thought hit me about leadership and how teams really come together. And it was visual and it was visceral, man. It was like, at my core, the best teams, the best relationships were able to sit on the floor, sit on a milk carton like we used to talk about, and connect post-workout, post-practice, post-game, and just connect. And in these buildings, whether it's NFL or college, the players in the weight room and the locker room are downstairs, right? And then here come the executives. And the higher you get, the better title you get. I think the further you get away from being able to sit on the floor and just have that conversation. What have you seen from elite leaders in sport when they've climbed, have the ability to get back down to where real connection happens?
I think the best, actually, it matters so much that they don't abandon it. They haven't abandoned that. Maybe I'll play out the scenario, but I just want to honor that connection is kind of, relationships run the whole thing.
Yeah. But don't you,
full stop.
Agreed. And is there a world where you've seen, whether it's clients or coaches or people you've worked with, because I've seen it, where they become the head coach and they become the head coach, and I can't reveal that anymore. I can't empathize with that anymore. I can't be that vulnerable, if you want to use that phrase that has become vogue now. That's what I feel sometimes when you get in the chair.
Yeah,
I got to shift.
Yeah, which is a tragic mistake. I mean, there is some sort of responsibilities that come with leadership titles and roles that are different than being able to sit on the floor. And I'm not saying that the leader should not sit on the floor. Let's just open up this idea of connection first. Connection with yourself. That is something that can endure independent of position.
Yeah.
And if you're letting the external pressures and outcomes of the seat that you're in dictate your connection to yourself, it's a signal to noise problem. It's a discernment issue that would follow from there. It's an unclarity of first principles. Connection, Harvard did a 80-year study, and we had the founder of that researcher, or the researcher on the Finding Mastery podcast, who was amazing. And one of the things that he suggested was the two things that made for the good life was connections, a la relationships, and purpose. And so this is something that's been true outside of sport and inside of sport. So connection with yourself, then connections with others. And maybe I might suggest your connection with experience in and of itself. Praise and blame idea. What is your connection to experience? Do you have a love affair that you can be in tune with for whatever the outcome might be? And if you can pour yourself in, just like in a love affair, just like in a loving relationship, you pour yourself into what this could be, because I'm going to be a great partner in this unfolding, unpredictable, unknown experience. Think about those words. Love and performance are unpredictable, unknown, and unfolding. And those are so alarming to our brains that for most of us, it kicks up anxiety. But for the true masters, they love the unfolding, unpredictable, unknown moment. So in love and in business, can you build this relationship with the unknown in an exciting way? You will be a master of life when you do that. And it's a work in progress. Hopefully we all have a lot more time to figure this out, but we don't know. Life is fragile in a lot of ways.
I love that. I do love that. Okay, so let's pivot to broadcasting. Right, so this is the part where I'm going to ask some fun questions for you. So I listen to a podcast with you and Greg Olson, and I've known Greg, I know his brother Kevin for a long time. You've obviously worked with Greg a bunch. You guys have done a bunch of cool content. Check it out. Again, findingmastery.com. I love it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. To that point, you asked him about calling the Super Bowl, and I was like, "Oh, I'm leaning in. This is a lean-in moment." And he said something to the effect of like, "Yeah, like it's different when they tell you that however many million are going to watch it." And I'm wondering, like, oh, this is good. I kind of had an idea where you were going to go. Like, what changes, right? Like, every moment weighs the same. I remember you telling me that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm curious your guidance on the craft of performance. Right here, I think of myself as a broadcaster. I went to a new network this past year. It was awesome. Go to these unknown places. And on one hand, you drop into Nebraska, and you're like, dude, let's go. It's going to be 80,000. It's going to be crazy. And I can remember going to my hotel, turning on like random PBS, and it's like, Nebraska everything. And I'm like, this fan base knows so much more about this team than I ever will, right? And you're instantly in your head. And then you get back to center and you call the game. And again, you just go cut it loose and let it rip. Curious your experience, and based on the question that you asked Greg, as you climb the ladder in the same craft, while it's easy to say nothing changes, dynamics do change. What's your guidance to those people that go through that type of experience?
Concretely, are you saying that, like, if you call a game for the Super Bowl versus a playoffs versus preseason, that they are different?
I'm asking, like, how would you guide a broadcaster or a performer as their stage seemingly gets larger and the lights get brighter, but the craft remains the same?
Yeah, it's cool. I would ask a question first, and let's say you came to me, you're like, hey, listen, I need some guidance. I'm kind of confused about something, right? And first and foremost, as a first principle, I don't give advice, okay? But I ask a lot of questions because I have a fundamental belief that you already hold your answers. And I have an unconditional positive regard for what you've already experienced in your life. So I'm going to ask questions from that place.
Yeah,
okay?
and he's done this to me before.
Yeah. So the first one, the most kind of abrupt one, I'd say, wait, hold on. Are you in the game of high performance or in the game of mastery?
Yeah, mastery.
Yeah. And I go, oh, okay, mastery. And I say, well, what does that difference mean to you? And then you would probably say something like, yeah, high performance is about getting out there and crushing it, like being great. I say, yeah. And what is the difference between that and mastery? And you probably say something about,
I'd say being dramatically connected to the moment in the craft.
Yeah, there's something about the relationship with growth, the honest experience and making contact with the actual moment, not about the performance and the outcome, right? And it's more about making contact with the moment and bringing your best forward, independent of the circumstance. So the general kind of gist would be, what is your commitment in this game? And if you want to be a high performer, of course, the size of the audience is going to make a difference. But for somebody on the path of mastery, what they're doing, they're seeing as an opportunity to be able to like, ooh, this is testing my ability to be calm. Oh, this is testing my imposter syndrome. This is testing some other stuff that I've got going on. What a great opportunity. So you'd frame it in that way as a growth opportunity. And then you would back in intelligently and say, right, I need to breathe.
Yeah.
I need to be able to manage my self-talk, to make sure I'm backing myself confidently, fill in the blanks. So I would just use it as an opportunity to see like, oh, it's pushing on those things. Great.
Yeah.
How do you want to get better?
Yeah, it was cool. I lean on your teachings often. I went in and did this trial run for Good Morning Football, which was really cool. I have no problem talking about it. And you roll in, and it feels like you're on like Good Morning America. Like, it is a huge set. You've been there before at NFL Network.
Yeah.
It's so dope. Like, you roll and you're like, okay. Like, it's 3 a.m. or 4 a.m, whatever it is, and you're just juiced on it. And I think there's a world where, at least in my experience, it easily could be, whoa, this thing is big. Like, it's a bigger audience, it's a bigger sport, it's a blah, blah, blah. And I leaned into what you taught me years ago. I was like, oh, I'm going to go play. And it was just that. And I think that it's whether you take the movie Hoosiers, Gene Hackman, same size hoop, right? As we played at Hickory High School or in the state championship. Same thing as a performer. And it was so fun, Mike, to feel that.
It's so good.
And be in it and be like,
oh, how fun is that?
It was.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's an experience thing for me now. Like, I hear from quarterbacks and their families all the time. And they're like, I'm thinking about leaving. How do I navigate this environment or this pressure? And I always ask them, like, what's the thing that matters most? That's my question.
Yeah, well, that's a question about first principles.
No
That's
doubt.
really what you're asking about.
And it's okay, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's
Is it
not
money?
it's not your life.
Yeah.
It's theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that you're pointing to about your experience of being on that set, it's no different than the first contract that somebody gets.
Yeah.
And then the third contract. So first and third change people's lives. Third contract that somebody gets, like, there's generational wealth usually on the line. Maybe it takes them 4, somewhere in that range. I'm talking about $100 million deals and fill in the blanks, generational wealth. First contracts, same thing. It's like 2 million, let's say, or $1 million, whatever it might be. That changes when that changes people's psychology, that's where things start to get really complicated. So when somebody gives you $1 million to say, congratulations, nice job, really excited that you're part of our team, for the people who are not first principle based, that becomes so noisy that it invites this idea, man, I got to show up now. Man, I can't let people down now. Whew, people are really counting on me now. Boy, people have taken a shot on me. I got to really show up now. So it's this not letting others down becomes the main narrative. And then not letting the neighborhood or the other family members that didn't have this gift and this support that you want to feed back into your loved ones that don't have this financial opportunity. Meanwhile, 50% of it's already gone by the time you receive it from taxes and the like. So what I'm pointing to, though, is that the psychology can change very easily on first and third contracts, just like it changed when you went from your studio to their studio. It's like this jump. And you don't want to look or sound stupid or let people down that were counting on you. Like the person that said, I think you're right for this chair, Yogi. Right. Why don't you come on and do a sample? You know that they've got some skin in the game. Yeah. You don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
So that's your brain doing what it's supposed to do. So if you have, let me clear that up. Your brain is trying to figure out how to survive. It's hundreds of thousands of years of programming. Survival in the modern times means safety. And safety is belonging. So when people belong and they're accepted and not rejected, when they are truly being seen for something special, they are protected. So that's why we adopt this performer identity, that if I can perform just right for people, then I'm going to be okay. My brain says, right, oh my God, I've got to figure this out. And so I can be this just to be safe. But it's actually not how it works, right? That's not where it needs to end. So that's where we need psychological skills to navigate that brain's deep, hundreds of thousands of years of programming desire to just be accepted or not rejected. And so that's where we need psychological skills to breathe, to self-talk, to do mental imagery, to come back to the present moment, to focus deeply on the controllables, fill in the blank, to be able to navigate what the brain is trying to do well, which is fit in.
That's fascinating, because I also hear you said this on one of our conversations over the years of like, you don't want to have a case of the efforts.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to go on to that stage or any stage thinking, tell me if I'm right here, man, they gave me a shot, I got to do it for them. Hey, I got to take care of my family. Or screw it, let it rip. Like, none of those to me are like in the most dialed in, high performing mindset.
I would agree. It's sometimes, I think maybe what we were talking about, the case of the efforts, is if you are really keyed up and overwhelmed and highly anxious, that means you care too much. Okay, so what is anxiety? Trained as a clinical psychologist, specialization, sport and performance, and a subspecialty in consequence. So these words matter to me. So if somebody is anxious, it's different than clinical anxiety. Okay, so an anxiousness that is pervasive over time becomes clinical anxiety. What is clinical anxiety? An excessive worry about all the things that could go wrong. Okay, it's good. It's fine. It's healthy. It's a protection mechanism to worry about, is that fire going to burn me? Like, is this cliff something that is whatever, fill in the blanks. But when it's excessive, it's problematic. And sometimes in a kind of a gunslinger type of way, sometimes you got to go, whoa, hold on a minute. F it. Yeah. Like, I got to send this thing. I got to do it my way. And it is not a high performing way. It's a tactic or a strategy to give yourself some space to not do what the brain wants you to do, which is like tighten up and escape from the threat. So sometimes you got to go, F it.
Paddle in.
Yeah.
You said something to me, and then I want to pivot to our last subject here. Years ago, that I use every Saturday night on TV.
Oh, very cool.
And I have a pre-performance routine where I talk to myself. I have that moment, and I always remind myself, like, you're switched on. And it's a really cool thing that I have totally stolen from you, that I share with quarterbacks all the time, of like, on one hand, it could be, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, it's a sellout, it's going to be a couple million people, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, switched on, dude. This is a good feeling. Let's go play.
Yeah.
And that has settled me, and I've watched it settle the colleagues that I have when we have that conversation. Like, I've just seen it work, of like, I'm just on, dude. Like, let's go.
Let's go, yeah. Let's go back to brain. Brain and mind are different. Your brain is the tissue, and it's been programmed for hundreds of thousands of years. Your mind is a software that is really working to maximize that tissue. So when something matters to you, calling a game, an intimate conversation, in the living room, when something matters to you, your body is supposed to respond by optimizing its readiness to be great. Heart pounds a little bit, breathing changes a little bit, body temperature starts to heat up a little bit to maximize all the pliability and strength that you want. Now, those things are kind of compromising when you're just sitting and calling or singing or doing something that doesn't require gross motor movement, okay? Big muscles moving in space. So when your body switches on, now that's the brain doing what it's supposed to do, because your psychology has said, this is important, okay? So then the second thing, you want to double down on the psychology to frame it a certain way. And you're framing it like, I'm ready. I've done my homework. I'm ready, switched on. And so that switched on feeling is so awesome. It's so great. And if you can say, yeah, I like this. Oh, wait, maybe this is a little too much now. Then if it's too much, back it down. Yeah. And if you like it and you're in the pocket, ride it. Yeah. Like, it's incredible. So I'm super stoked that you're enjoying that framing of that. And here's the thing about psychology. You got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah.
You are a switched on individual. So it does not surprise me that you would hook onto that and be like, yeah, I'm switched on. Let's go.
Totally. Yeah, I felt it last week. I went to Ohio State, did their spring game. And I was like, I'm national champions. I've never been in the stadium before. Well, yeah, I'm ready. I mean, it's 18 years of craft. Like, I know the craft inside and out. I think I'm mastering the craft. Switched on. Let's cut it loose. Compete freely, man. Let's go. You
That's
earned
it. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, so I am a head coach of a 10-year-old youth flag football team. And we had a game a couple weeks ago. And to set the scene, we had 4 players that day. It's 6-on-6.
Okay.
A bunch of our guys had emergencies, couldn't make it, whatever.
Okay.
So we play 4-on-5. We lose, a heartbreaker. As the game is unwinding for our team, I'm watching 9 and 10-year-olds do something I've never seen before, which is point. You suck. You suck. And then I suck. Tears, an absolute wreck. I'm watching this happen. And it hits me. And I'm trying to manage it. I got parents kind of hovering around me. I'm like, okay, we got this, no problem. Like, I've navigated meltdowns before. And what hit me afterwards was that this is a generation right now whose self-talk is not great. Now, I don't have the history like you do or the research at all, other than my experience. When I was 9 and 10, we were ringers. It's me and John Glenn, who's the linebacker coach of the Raiders, as you know. And it didn't matter. We could have 1-on-5. We were going to beat your you-know-what. That was just a framework for us.
Yeah.
But I saw this with this group. So we came back to practice the next day, and we asked them what they say to themselves. And now every night and every morning they have to do what I'm just stealing the stuff from an author. She wrote a book about the high five. I'm blanking on her name right now. And it was like you look in the mirror every morning, and you got to give yourself a high five. And you got to say something good to yourself. And I've watched it change our team. I've watched them catch phrases out of their mouth when they want to, I threw an interception. They want to do it. They grab it. So I'm asking, because I know a lot of parents are going to be watching this that have youth athletes. Am I accurate on like, God, the self-talk, the confidence is not there. And maybe it's because it's poured into something else. I don't want to say like a TV or a video game or like there's so much more now to do than when you were in Virginia and I was in Pennsylvania to do. Like you were just building your confidence by falling off your bike, going off a jump, like doing things that aren't necessarily day-to-day activities now in this era of childhood. And I know I'm generalizing, but Mike, my heart was broken when I watched not them just point at each other, but it's how they talked about themselves, my son included.
Yeah, tricky, man. I have a lot to say about this. Let me start with the obvious is that they're learning that somewhere. This is not an innate genetic coding to do that. The genetic
to blame or to
yeah. Well, so the genetic coding would be some sort of social survival tactic, which is if you can point heat to another person, then you're taking the exposure off of you. Okay, so there's a sort of survival tactic that's in there. But they're learning this behavior. And if we're not intentional about teaching how to speak to themselves, they are going to figure it out. Most parents love their children. They want the best for their children. Most parents, I'm going to say like 90% of parents, would never say, son, you are horseshit. Son, what is, well, maybe they'd say, what's your problem? But they would never want their child to feel badly about themselves. But somehow they're picking it up. They're learning it. So the way that we roll our eyes to our kids, the ways that we teach them about what's right and wrong, they are learning about self-talk that way. The other way that they're learning about self-talk is they're listening to how you as a parent are talking about your friends, talking about how other people make mistakes. If somebody walks by and let's say that you make a comment like, oh my God, this person's so skinny, or oh my God, that person is too fat, or whatever kind of judgmental of a compliment, or not compliment, a critique, that the child is picking up a narrative about themselves even though it's a second order. So they're learning it somewhere, okay? How do we get better at it? Exactly what you suggested, which is to be very intentional with it. And I would make it fun, and I would make it a game, and I would talk about inputs or outputs, look, on my team, on our team, I want us to be great with how we coach ourselves. And I'm going to ask each of you at the end of the practice, what did you say to yourself that you backed yourself? And how did you back somebody else? I want you to be great with the way you coach yourself and the way that you coach somebody else. And you can do inputs or output, or just, actually, I'm changing this. Above the line and below the line. And so below the line is critical self-talk, and above the line would be productive, positive coaching of oneself. And I would call it out and just ask, and if you hear somebody, put a sticker on their helmet for, being a great coach themselves or other people, or sticker not in their helmet, but on their, do you have them journal?
No.
Oh, it's a great practice. So if you can have, this is what I would suggest you do. Before practice, have them write down between 1 and 3 goals that are 100% under their control.
Okay.
And have a little journal. Now, this is hard, so maybe start with just 1.
Yeah.
And then you check it before practice. And then maybe it's after practice, you'll go around and do you huddle after practice or after?
Before and after.
Yeah, before and after. So after, when you're huddling, you can talk about a couple of them and highlight. Kids are learning from you what gets attention and what doesn't. And if what gets attention is great goals and I saw you work it and super above the line, amazing Joey, they'll be like, oh, that's how I get the Yogi Roth's, attention, right? So that's one thing I would do. The other thing that I would do is I would have at the end of practice 1 or 2 points that are really important to you to celebrate. And I would have all the parents come listen. So a lot of times youth sport want their parents away from the narrative because some of the parents are a little wild with their expectations. But if you pull them in and teach them to take a knee behind the kids, and this is not a questions, teach them what to do in that moment. This is not for questions. This is not dialogue before or after. I just want you to hear the message I'm sending to the kids. So when you get in the car, you can know where I'm coming from. Yeah. And I would also, third order, I would instruct the parents that the car ride home is the most stressful, dangerous part of their day when it comes oftentimes to sport. So teach them to ask open-ended questions that have nothing to do with outcome, that have to do more with like, did you take some risks today? Or this is my favorite, I just ask, what I've done with my son is just say something as simple as, son, I just love watching you try to figure it out. And then if he picks that up and wants to talk about, did you see this? Or, man, this was hard. Or like, oh my God, this was so much fun. Then I go with it. But it's just a sentence. I just love watching you try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a word of the year this year?
Play.
Again. Huh?
Again. This is my 3rd year in a row.
How's that going for you?
Yeah. So every year, beginning of the year, it's the year of. And so I just need a little more play. I'm super intense and I love that part of me, and I just want to have the counter rotation to play more.
Yeah.
And it's not like go play and have a vacation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying be playful in the way that I'm contouring my thoughts, the way that I'm engaging with people.
I think it was 2011. We were in the ocean, and I think you guys were like redoing your place. We were down in Redondo, and we came up with the idea, or at least you brought it up to me. And that year we both went with the year of go. And it was like, yes to everything.
Yes to everything.
Yes to everything.
That was wild. I know.
That.
Yeah. Almost everything.
Yeah.
There's a few things. Yeah. So that was good. What is your year of?
I'm going precise.
Precise?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I want to be really precise with my time. Like that's it.
It's very cool.
Like last year was light. It was the coolest word I ever had because it was going to be light on my toes because I was trying to get a job, where am I going to land? I wanted to illuminate other people when I get in a room with them, make it about them, even though they know I might be seeking something. And then when I get my shot, I'll light it up.
Yeah, that's so good.
So now like it's be light and be precise.
That's good. Yeah, that's so good.
It's been good. Like I think as I've gotten older, and again, this past offseason, the transformation for me was amazing, Mike, of having a real opportunity with a family and 2 kids now to go pivot. And I got back to first principles. I love calling games. I love celebrating the craft. I love coaching the viewer. And I love time. And I know, the only thing I know for sure is that it's only getting faster. It's only getting faster. I got a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old. Whoa, how'd that happen? Right? You say Grayson's 16, and I'm like, I was like reading him books yesterday.
I know.
And he was 4 years old.
That's wild, man.
So I just think I think I've gotten to the place where I don't need the things I thought mattered. I'm reading this book now by Salil Bloom, who, again, he'd be a great guest for you, about the 7 values of money or 7 virtues of money. And he has this case study where it says, yes, you have to be above poverty. So let's just say in LA, you need $125,000 to survive, like pay your mortgage, pay your bills, whatever it is. And then after that, he did a case study where he's like, all right, the guy who has 25 million, how much more do you need to be happy? To the guy with 50 million, with 100 million. And they're all were like, double, because then I could fly more private, or another 10 million. Like, no one was happy. And it was chapter 1 of his book. And it just struck a chord of like, what is happy? Like, for Amy, my kids, my craft, the rest will come.
It's cool, man.
And be in that, like, just be in that moment of like, it will come. And the way we go.
How do you practice the year of? How do you practice light and precision?
Yeah. Well, number one, I have not chosen that word on January 1st over the last 2 years. It has taken time because I'm in the middle of the season. It's the playoffs. It's like I need the discipline, and I'm on like this kick of like the best in class, chase what matters, clarity on what matters most, confident when you say it, and then you're disciplined in how you approach it.
Those are first principles, by the way.
No doubt. And those are lockstep for what I think I'm about, what I believe I'm about. To that point, how do I practice it? I'm trying to remind it every single day. So not let your calendar fill up with a million things. And when it does, okay, cool, a miss. Check yourself. Like, are you being precise? I co-taught a course this year at UCLA. It was really cool with Miss Valerie Condosfield, who I know you love.
Yeah.
And we explored Brene Brown a bunch. And one of the things was like, if you don't tell somebody hard things, you're basically saying that they can't handle it. And to me, that's a part of being precise. As a self-diagnosed pleaser, I would say like it's my job to be more discerning and precise with like where my thoughts are. Not more, not a jerk, not a direct. Like it's just be a little bit more precise. So that's with my time, that's with my thoughts, that's with everything. And I found it to be great. Whether it's sleeping better, eating better, working out more, like those things.
So it's somehow it's seeped into the water, the broth of your thinking.
No doubt.
Right,
And
so,
accepting that last season was a sprint. The top of my vision board says, you will never work this hard again. Because I went so hard.
It's funny. I don't know if I believe that for you.
Yeah.
You work pretty damn hard all the time.
And I don't need the details or whatever, but like it was a new league, it was a new conference, it was a new network. Like it was just a different time zone. Like it was a grind. And what I learned, I called Chris Peterson, our dear friend, former coach at Washington and Boise State. He goes, some seasons are sprints. And I was like, yeah, dude, like be easy on yourself a little bit. Like,
yeah, right.
You just had to go for it. Now recover, get more precise, and away we go and chart the course.
So mechanically, I think for folks that have something they're going after, whether it's being precise or light or making their next million or first million, whatever it might be, it's really important to have some sort of bookends throughout the day. So when you wake up, that's why I was asking if it is in the broth, and it sounds like it is. However, it might be nice, not for you, but for others, is to set the intention for the day. So you've got this grand intention, or goal, if you want to call it that too. Set it in the morning and then check it at night.
Yeah.
And then so you're bookending in that way. And it seems so academic, almost like a third grader's exercise or something. It's just really nice to be honest with yourself. And that is one of the characteristics of the best of the best of the best of the best. They are radically forcing to get to the truth of something. Yeah. Because substandard is not okay. Yeah. And if you're not operating from the truth, like, was I precise today in vertical 1, 2, and 3? If you don't have a way to set it and check it and hold yourself accountable, it's probably just gobbledygook that's just clouding out the whole system.
I think, and we'll wrap this up in a minute, I think one of my greatest challenges is I've always had this thing, Mike, where you have to earn the right to compete freely. I love that phrase. It's part of my mantra before every broadcast, every show. And when you add in dynamics of life into that, sometimes like you won't check off every box. So mastery to me in broadcasting is knowing what to say versus what you don't know. And that has always been the hardest road for me of like, did I watch every YouTube video? Did I do everything? Well, this week, yeah. Next week, no. Like life happens. And I think there's a grace that high performers, like I could say with the older generation, I could see with Pete for instance. Like, I think there's a grace there that when you're, when you're just more experienced, you can be better. So that's where I hope to grow there this year, because I wasn't last year. It was such a stressful place. And then you get to game day and it's like, all right, we've earned it.
Yeah,
Let's party.
That works too, though.
And I steal a lot of your stuff from your show, Finding Mastery, man, because I think you do a beautiful job when you wake up.
Thank you.
You center yourself, you ask yourself, you check in.
Yeah, for the 4 kind of morning mindset routine, that bit. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. And look, I'll send it over to you. We've got an audio file of it, and so if folks want it, it helps build our email list as well. I'll send it over to you if you can push it out, it'd be great. I'm
done with that. Got it. I love the courses as well. For everybody who's listening to this, I think it's imperative to check it out. FindingMastery.com. Finding Your Best and the Warrior's Edge, man.
Thank you.
I know you've poured into it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on maybe another episode.
Awesome.
But until then, Mike, thanks for having me in your space.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
No, thank you for, first and foremost, a friendship. And thank you for supporting and challenging me to do the things that I'm doing. You hold a huge space in what my professional and personal life looks like. So thank you for the friendship and the support and challenge. And it's awesome to see you rip, dude.
Yeah, thanks, dude. Speaking of ripping, maybe we get a paddle.
Yeah, that'll be good.
One of these days. All right, with that said, that's our conversation here, Dr. Michael Gervais. I'm Yogi Roth. Big thank you to our founding partner, 76, keeping you on the go, so you never miss a beat. As you're driving, I know this conversation is forcing you to probably pull over, take notes. That's all right. Just go to yoption.com. We got the transcript there. We have an article about it. Check it out. You need anything more on Dr. Michael Gervais, go to findingmastery.com. Lots of love. Thank you very much for the time. Stay safe. Peace.